How's it going? I'm Jim Groom, and I'm just going to do a quick overview of a new retro gaming system I have installed called Batocera or Batocera, depending upon your pronunciation. But it is if you're at all familiar with RetroPie, it might seem somewhat recognizable. It allows you to install and integrate various emulators for various consoles, whether it's Commodore 64, the classic MAME, Atari 2600, Atari 5200, 7800, etc., ColecoVision. You can install this, load your ROMs, and you're off to the races. So there's some cool features of Batocera that I want to show off a little bit. So I'm going to jump here into this emulator for Atari 2600. And one of the features that you can see here is you can list your games using the classic boxes, which I just love, right? This is awesome. And so a lot of this is done in the options for each of these consoles. So for example, I can go to start here and I have the game settings options, but the start menu really gives you options for everything. Controller, Bluetooth, which is pretty easy to set up, game collection settings. So this is where you would go to look at your game collections and decide how they're basically set up. You can also go and set up sound settings. System settings is something you'll use a lot. Network settings is to get online, etc. The scraper for me was huge because this is where I was able to get and select all of this media for each of the systems. So I'm using screenscraper.fr, which is an amazing site. I wouldn't use any of the others. There's other options, which is like Games Database, HFSB, ArcadeDB. Screenscraper is like the creme de la creme. That's what you use. You have to create an account, but it's well worth it. And then once you do, you can go in there and select which systems you want to scrape for, and it will look at all your games and grab various media that you choose. By default, if you're in a particular console, it will choose that console, but you can select more. So that was pretty cool, was how easy it was to figure out how to get all this media using this scraper. It was really pretty cool. So I love this setup. So here we are, we have a game. So not only do you have general settings, which are very helpful, but you can also jump into game by game specific settings. So let's just say I run into Haunted House and I press the X key on my gamepad, but I hold it down. By holding it down, I have specific settings for this game. Like I can go to scrape and scrape just for this game, which means get media just for this game. I can edit that metadata for the media, so I can go in here and change any of this if I needed to. I can go in and I can go to advanced game options, which is pretty slick because this gives me options to change like video mode, aspect ratio, stuff like if you wanted to use light guns, rotation of the image, audio information. It really gives you a lot of options on a game-by-game basis, which I find really cool. And I'll show you in some other consoles how that can be even useful for switching between emulators. So here I'm going to go back and just click on the X button once, and it will take me into the game. And so here is a look at how the system looks on. I'm going to press select, which will give me the level I want to use, and then start, and there I go, running around. I'm going to find out where is there it is. So there I get my screen, my mace. I get him. He can't touch me. There we go. And then go. Haunted House is such a strange game. I love it. But look at the settings there where you can kind of, on the sides, the left and right, you see there's the Atari 2600 console, which is pretty cool. So anyway, that's the game. I'm now exiting out of that. And there's a whole series of different 2600 games. I have a bunch. That's a definite favorite console for me. But if I want to go to another console, like Atari 5200, one of the cool things about Batocera that I've seen and I really like is, let's just say I want to get into a particular game like Defender. So I go in, I click, and it says, hey, warning, the system has missing BIOS files and the game may not work correctly. The BIOS files can be a pain because you have to go out for various consoles or emulating of particular consoles and get particular files. For the Atari 5200, there's like 4 of them. You have to get something for the PS1. There's something for ColecoVision, Atari 7800, etc. So this is something you have to know to do. But here in this system, it basically says, look, you don't have them. They're giving you a warning like, go get them. So I'm going to launch it anyway. And I have loaded them. And so I actually have them in there. I just don't have them in the right place. I just wanted to show you how it kind of warns you about the BIOS files, which I think is really slick. So here we go. I'm going to find out how we go. Defender on the 5200. Getting closer to the arcade. It's not perfect by a long shot, but it is getting us there. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so that's 5200. I'll get out of that. And here we are back there. So pretty much the gameplay is similar across the various systems. I'm a big fan of ColecoVision as well, which was like the Atari 5200 competitor. And if you go in there, you'll see also I have the boxes, which I really love, and a handful of good games off of that. I go back. That Dragon Lair doesn't work. I tried to get it to work, but that one doesn't work. But one of the things I wanted to show you, because this is the very reason why I started playing with Batocera, is it can, well, MAME in general can emulate handheld games, which is something I had no idea about. But as usual, the Internet Archive had, and they have been doing this for years. But you can emulate some of those old Coleco, Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, Galaxian games that were the little consoles or little cabinets that they created as handhelds. And they're pretty cool. So I went in and I figured out how to emulate a few of these, and they're pretty fun. Like, for example, here's the Coleco Donkey Kong. I changed the visual of these handhelds because I couldn't really get boxes in the same way, and I didn't have as many, so I'm using a carousel here. But you can see there's a few. Not all of these work, but most of them do. So let's take a look at Donkey Kong. This will give you a good idea what the experience is like. So you go in, and there's the actual handheld, which is crazy. And then you press select, and it allows you to power on. And I think I push the start button. And then I push the start button, and it tells me, okay, jump is my X, up, right, and down, and then select and menu is where I'm going to be able to choose between. So I kind of go there, I power on, I zoom in, so you can power on, which I'll try. Power off, power on, hold on. There it is. There's the zoom in, which is bizarre. So let me try and power on again. There it is, and I'm zooming in. So this is a handheld. Okay, and I'm actually playing this. So this jump, there we go. The left is not really working very well. So I don't know if that's my controller or that, but you get the idea that this handheld works, right? So that's pretty cool. And I didn't know you could zoom in. I just realized that there. There's also this other handheld. It's a multi-screen Donkey Kong by Nintendo. And this one is pretty cool, actually. I remember this back in I think it was 81. But again, you can kind of press which game. And I think I'm going to do this. So I'm going to go game A, and it starts. And then what I do is I use the controller, and I go in there. I'm not going to be very good. Now, I can't see where there's the kind of layover of the image. I can't jump unless I have room. And that's pretty wild. So not a very good game on my part, I must say. But let me try this again. So I'm going to stay here. Stay here. Okay, now I'm going to go forward. Wait for him to come down. Oh, see? That was not good. Ready? All right, no go. So that's not as good as I'd hope, but you'll see you can actually play these. And one of them, Dungeons and Dragons, it's impossible. I don't know how anyone ever played this. One of my favorites is this head-to-head Coleco. And there's a bunch of different moving parts here. But here, okay. Let's see, ready? I gotta figure out, okay. There we go. I'm throwing it too soon. But you'll see, this is how Coleco works. I can see the play select down is run or pass. So there I did it. So I'm going to do run. And then I'm kicking it. I don't know why you would kick. Oh, I scored. So that was because I must have had a deception. But it's hard enough to do this on the actual game pad. So unless you know this game, it's near impossible. But let's see if they show us the controllers. Well, okay. I think it's X to move forward. So let's see. Nope, X is to pass. So let me try again. I guess I should have studied the controllers. Oh, there it is. The O is to. Oop. Now I'm going to run. Now I got it. See, it takes a little bit, but then you get it. It's like, oh, I'm going to pass. Oh, I could have had a long pass. Okay, hold on. Let me go again. Here we go. I'll show you the long pass. There we go. There he goes. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh, look at this. Now I'm taking off. This is Barry Sanders over here. Okay, you get the idea. So that's Coleco head-to-head handheld. I had no idea you could play these in MAME. Pac-Ry Monster is one of the first handhelds I got, and it's like a clone of Pac-Man, but it's not Pac-Man at all. It's just a smaller maze. It's very different, but I couldn't get this to work. This is why I did this. But another one I had really early was the Space Invader by Entex, and this is a pretty good game. The emulation in handheld is not that great, but let's take a look. Okay, so here I am. Right, and this is just a straight up handheld kind of, oh, there we go, look at that. Space Invaders game, nothing too special. Although it gets very, very difficult very quick, and you only have 2 lives. And then you have to, in order to restart the game, it's like the Commodore 64, you have to turn it off and turn it back on, which I like. Like, that's the only way to restart it. So, anyway, blown away, personally, that I can now emulate handheld games. This is the e-quarterback, the electronic quarterback, which is another great game. Dungeons and Dragons, like I said, impossible. This Pac-Man is terrible by Tomy. But anyway, these are a few that I got running. Not all of them, but most of them do work. And that's pretty wild that you could. Now, one of the reasons you could do that, let's look at this for a second. I'm going to go back in here. Now I'm going to press versions and then go to advanced game options and press X. So look at this up here. See this emulator option? This is for MAME related games. And this actually gives me options of which MAME emulator I want to use. And there's 3 that Batocera supports. And so it automatically chooses, which is what I leave it on, auto. But I could decide, oh, I want it on MAME 2003 or MAME normal or MAME 2010, depending upon what I was looking for. So you'd have to do some more research because MAME, again, is very complex. But again, you have all of these different options: artwork crop, multi-screen, CRT switches, and this is all for the handheld stuff. So really kind of cool, complex stuff for these handhelds. Another feature I like about Batocera is when you use a game in Commodore 64, so the Vice emulator that requires 2 discs, for example, Conan Hall of Volta is one of those games, and I have 2 discs here. But reading up, I realized that if you put both of them in a zip file and then you open that single zip file, the emulator will open the first disc, and then you can actually manually flip the discs using a series of hotkeys on the controller, which prevents you having to hook up a keyboard, which is kind of nice. So here is the cracked game, and that's the loading the data, and then it will ask you to flip disk and press any key. So what I do is I press the hotkey and X, and then this allows me to go down to disk control here. Once I enter disk control, I can eject that current disk and then load a new disk. So I eject Conan 1, right? And then I load a new disk, which is Conan 2, and that would allow me to basically, so let's see if that inserts. And so I close the virtual tray, and then I hit a key, and this should now load the Hall of Volta. Now, there's also a way you can use the left and right triggers on your gamepad to do this. I have not got that to work. So I'm not even sure here if the zip file really helped me that much. It was just the basic quick feature with the hotkey and X to allow me to control the disk. So anyway, that might need some more research, but I did like that. And yet that's another system that emulates cleanly in the Batocera. So nice. Other features that are worth mentioning quickly. Let me go here to the system settings. One of the things I did is there's a Kodi Media Center that is included. I didn't like it because on one of the, maybe it's even the systems menu, but on one of the menu, it would come up top. And so I would click on it by mistake. So I have disabled the Kodi settings, and I can enable them just by clicking that button. But I did disable them because that was a bit of a pain. But here's some of your hardware. I've been playing with this for the streaming, actually, the video output, the audio output. So all of that is in your system settings. You can obviously use a potentially different storage device for some of your stuff. I don't have anything nearly big enough to need that. But anyway, this is some of your basic system settings. All in all, I have to say that I really have enjoyed the interface and how easy it is to work on a game by game basis for a lot of these system settings and game settings. That has been really nice. And, I don't know. I do love my RetroPie and I have that hooked up to a CRT in my office, but I also have another Pi that I'm using this for in my home office. So it's not like I'm going to abandon one for the other, but I do have to say I am very much enjoying the Batocera here again with those BIOS files. The games look nice. I like the interface. It's similar to RetroPie, but you have a little bit more options with the scraper, or at least for me. I think you can scrape on the RetroPie, but because that interface is a little bit more difficult, if you will, I found I didn't really do much but play the games. Whereas this, I have a lot more willingness to play around. And I think because the interface is a little more forgiving and easier to find. So anyway, that's kind of my breakdown of, or experience at least, with Batocera so far. Anyway, hope it was useful, and thanks for watching.